he has posted videos on his account with MAGA influencer Riley Gaines. She's the one who sucks at swimming, right?
Yeah, she's the one that finished 5th place in a swimming competition and should have finished 4th in her opinion, since there was a trans person participating, and that finish of 5th instead of 4th now defines her entire career. So. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Miller.
I'm Cameron Kasky, and this is FY Pod, the Bulwark's show focused on young people and young people stuff. Trump just put this weird, dumb 22-year-old with no experience in charge of a counterterrorism effort at a time when maybe we ought to be keeping an eye on terror in the United States. But first, a very important segment to me, brand new segment that I created for this week's show. It's called How Are You Feeling, Tim? Because the other night, I was doing MSNBC and we were talking, and I was really anxious about it because, if you screw up on live TV, you can't have the editor cut it out. And I was just like, how does Tim do this? And then that just put me in the context of Tim's emotional world and his truth. And I'm just like, how does Tim do a lot of stuff? And then I was like, man, men don't check in on each other's feelings enough, and I don't know if JVL and Bill Kristol are asking you how you're feeling, but it's like, you're a dad. You're a husband. You're a political commentator at a time when we're provoking war with Iran. And it's like, I love you, brother. You're my fucking boy, and to the end of my days and everything. And I'm just like, how are you doing? How are you feeling, man?
That's so sweet. You didn't tell me about this new segment. Thank you, Cameron. I am doing pretty good. I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks, and I have a surprise for you, which I'm not going to tell you about right now live on air. And
I get to do FY Pod with Bill Kristol, right?
You never know. You never know what the surprise will be. You can't guess what a surprise is. That's
everybody. Comment down below what you think the surprise will be.
So I'm interested to see how my emotional state will be after I go on a real proper vacation, which I've not done in a long time, where I just check out and I just do vacation-y stuff. And that's what I intend to do here in July. Because in the meantime, I just work all constantly. And when I'm not working, I'm only doing 2 things. One, I'm either very actively parenting my child and playing imagination games where I pretend like I'm a, panda or something. Or I am drinking with my buddies, with my homies. And so I don't have a lot of time to get in my feelings. And that is how I've navigated not getting in my feelings during Trump 2.0. And I don't know if that's actually a healthy way to do it. Just constantly
the former,
the
dad
drinking.
one sounds a lot healthier than the drinking buddies one. But
yeah,
it's called
that's
balance.
That's how I'm doing it. That's how I'm handling it. I'm fine for now. It's better than I thought it was going to be. I was nervous. I was nervous for the country first and foremost after he won, but I was also a little nervous for myself. How am I going to get it up for this every day? This is so horrible. And I'm just doing it, man. I don't know. How are you?
Let it be known, by the way, just since Toulouse came up, Tim's wonderful daughter, I asked Tim if he could ask Toulouse who her favorite Disney princess was. Mm-hmm. And she basically was like, yeah, I'm not really that into princesses. And I was like, if somebody asked me that, I would be like, okay, are we talking about the animated movie version, the Broadway version, the live action version? And then I would give you top 5 for all of those.
You have a pyramid,
it's complicated because different adaptations have given the different characters different things. And we'll do a separate episode, ideally with Bill Kristol, where I'm ranking the Disney princesses. Okay. But just for those of you who are listening and want to hear us talk about Trump's 22-year-old counter-terror kid, Toulouse, Tim's daughter, has less to say about Disney princesses than his 24-year-old co-host of FY Pod. So anyway.
Significantly less. She said she didn't know she doesn't like princesses, and then walked away, and then turned around and was like, does Ariel count? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, I guess Ariel, and then walked away again and started playing football. So
completely valid answer, by the way. It's not my answer, but I see the merits.
Totally valid answer. So, that's what's going on with me. You got to stress out less also about MSNBC. It's fine. Once I just realized that the best thing to do on cable news is just let it rip, the better I was. And so...
Wait, that brings me to a story that would be a good segue into our main topic, which is I was in the elevator at 30 Rock on the way up to the studio, and I was chatting with the producer, this really nice lady who I really love hanging out with.
Lady. That kind of implies that she's 55.
She's probably
was it a grown woman?
Late 20s.
Okay. I don't know if she would want to be called a lady, but continue. Go ahead.
I would love to be called a gentleman.
Okay, gentlemen.
We were talking about just like, oh, how's your weekend going? And she said, oh, I'm on call till 1 a.m. tonight. So hopefully there's no breaking news, nothing too crazy. I go up, I do the segment. She walks me out. We have a nice little chat. I enter the elevator. I get to the first floor of 30 Rock. I look at my phone. It's like, oh, we just bombed Iran. That news dropped while I was on my way down from the live segment.
Well, there you go. You're lucky you weren't on there. I'll say this. This is my one pro tip for you or for anyone else that finds themselves on cable news. Something you forget. This is my media coaching for you. You control what you say, actually. They can ask you what they want, but if you don't know anything about that, or if you're not sure, if you're worried you might get in trouble, or you're not steeped in that, you can kind of just like talk about what you plan to talk about and just be like, I, as far as that's concerned, I'm not sure, but here's the thing that I care about in the news, blah, 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 and then stop. You can
the
also
hardest
talk
part,
short.
though, is that there's a commercial break coming. So there's certain conversations we're in where I get pushback on something and I'm totally ready to show up and explain further what I was talking about. And then it's like, oh, we have to cut to commercial. And these hosts, I'm like, how the fuck do these people do this for like 6 hours at a time where they have to engage in these political discussions? And at all times, they're like 90 seconds away from it having to be over.
Yeah, that's true. The commercial break is a cruel mistress, and it comes whether you want it or not. That's true.
Speaking of cruel, is my sloppy segue.
Great, actually.
And speaking of segues, we are going to put on screen this Arrested Development ass picture of one of our new leaders in counterterrorism.
I want to start here. The eyebrow, I keep seeing this picture, and Cameron and I were talking this morning, and I keep seeing people tweeting about it. It's like, this man is in charge of our counterterrorism, and he does the eyebrow thing, and it looks totally fake, totally like it could not possibly be something that is happening in the real earth, and yet apparently it is. But I've not brought myself to actually click on any of the stories about this person. It's like been a quiet protest of mine to try not to care about this 22-year-old.
Well, you've already got like an underqualified, annoying 20-something coworker who shouldn't be in the position he's in. Like, do you really need another one?
Exactly. Thank you, Cameron. That's a great point. So anyway, I assigned my underqualified 20-something to tell me about Thomas Fugate. Fugate?
I don't know. I'm going to say Fugate.
Okay. What was the character's name in Zoolander? Mugatu.
Got it.
Mugatu. Fugate.
Different. So
sorry.
Thomas Fugate, in what is not a first in this Trump administration, as some might observe, is not qualified for his position. He's 22 years old. He has no prior government leadership or security experience. He was a landscaper. He was a grocery clerk. And by the way, mad respect to people who work these jobs and are part of our economy.
Such man respect to the people that landscape that, for me, if I was an ex-landscaper, I would not want to join an administration where mass thugs show up outside of IHOP and take landscapers and bait their head into the ground and then throw them into the back of the car. It's like something that I would be against if I had been a landscaper and understood the challenge of the job, but that's just me. Sorry.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas did not pay these people much mind. He recently graduated from UT San Antonio, so I guess that's one place where he's more qualified than your co-host. Is that
Shout out Anna Lips.
He interned at the Heritage Foundation, which, they're pretty hoity-toity over there. And now he is leading the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, a division of the Department of Homeland Security that oversees terrorism prevention. It is known as CP3. The CP3 works to combat terrorism, school shootings, and other hate-driven violence, and it oversees an $18 million grant program intended to help communities battle violent extremism. So now let's do what we should always do with our DHS leaders and talk about his LinkedIn. By the way, I don't know if any of you people see this. This is a side note. If you're using AI for your LinkedIn picture, you're part of the problem. Moving on.
The hair is a choice that he doesn't need to be making.
I will judge anybody for their hair, not if they're balding or anything like that, but at the end of the day,
their haircut.
Like, I get bad haircuts, and if you want to give me shit for it, it's like, okay, that's a great note. I'll try to get a better haircut next time. Anyway,
Thomas needs to work on one.
Thomas Fugate LinkedIn, landscape business owner. That probably means he was just like going to his parents' friends' places, and like his parents were like, hey, my son wants to, mow your lawn. Can you give him $50, but I guess that is being a business owner. It's probably more qualified business than a lot of the people Trump calls successful business people. I don't know if he's bankrupted any landscaping companies, so that puts him above the Donald. He said at his grocery store, he would perform various duties around every department of the store, fulfilling key duties, using the same word twice in one sentence, contributing to store operations, which is a very college application, LinkedIn way to put I worked at the store. But then he was an advanced team member for Trump 2024. He was a, quote, special assistant at an immigration office at the DHS. And then he got his promotion from special assistant at the immigration office to overseeing an $18 million budget to combat terrorism while we have a president who is doing everything he can to provoke people who fund a lot of terrorism all over.
I want to talk about that, the job part, but just really quick on the LinkedIn. Did you just kind of zoom over there, his leadership experience at the Model UN Club?
Oh my God, my bad.
Because as somebody who was a award-winning Model UN participant in the year 2000, at Naaman, I received a National Naaman Award the year of your birth. I was winning an award. Was a rare Model UN participant who was smoking marijuana and winning awards simultaneously, just to show my range. And boy, unfortunately, I lost my range a little bit for the following year because I kind of leaned a little bit over too far into the one direction, and it hurt my skill set, on the actual debating. So I did not.
When I was around that age, I also leaned a little too far into one direction. That's called being queer.
But I'm just saying, Thomas and I have that in common. We both have leadership experience. I was the club head of Model UN at Regis Jesuit High School, and so I just don't want. I also want to make sure you didn't miss that.
But I even think like Jeb Bush, for whom you were the comms director, which is a pretty serious position. Like, I feel like he probably wouldn't have put you in like a security role, though. You know what I'm saying?
At DHS? No, hell no. Are you kidding me? No.
Anyway, his LinkedIn profile, I'll have Dante throw this up as well, also features a photo taken in front of the DHS seal, marked by a wryly arched eyebrow, which I do in photos as well, seemingly reflecting the self-awareness of a young man who knows he's on the fucking up and up, baby. A senior DHS official has said that Mr. Tom has performed well in his current role and due to his success has been temporarily been given additional leadership responsibilities in the Center for blah, blah, blah. And this is a credit to his work ethic and success on the job, which I have to say is pretty impressive because you know what they say about fucking Gen Z employees, man.
You guys are tough to deal with. So a couple of thoughts. I need to issue a correction. I shouted out the Antelopes earlier. UT San Antonio is actually the Roadrunners.
Misinformation here at the Bulwark.
I want to make sure that we adhere to the highest level of accuracy here at the Bulwark. I just want to note the kind of person whose position he took, William Braniff, this person who held this position under Joe Biden. He resigned in protest when Trump won. Shout out you, William Braniff. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy and the School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins University. So, it seems like he's got a little bit more experience as a scholar of counterterrorism. Just kind of the type of person
what he has less experience in, probably, I don't know. I mean, these days, people of all ages seem to be all about this, but I bet he has less experience in social media. So Thomas Fugate had a political themed IG account featuring the motto, "Men used to do great things. I believe they still can." Now, I know what you're thinking.
Oh, no.
This might imply some gender dysphoria since he did not say we still can. That I cannot diagnose. But he has posted videos on his account with the disgraced Kennedy Center president, with MAGA influencer Riley Gaines. She's the one who sucks at swimming, right?
Yeah, she's the one that finished 5th place in a swimming competition. And should have finished 4th in her opinion, since there was a trans person participating, and that finish of 5th instead of 4th now defines her entire career. So yeah,
also in the esteemed company of Mr. Tommy Fugate was Greg Abbott and Boris Johnson, which I have to admit I was kind of surprised to see. But they found an older Twitter account as well. Under the name.
What kind of stuff? Can I ask you about this Instagram account? Like what kind? So it's men used to do great things. So it's what, like pictures of like the building of the pyramids, or like pictures of like Iwo Jima, or like what or what?
I only
What?
read articles. I didn't go to the
Okay, we
account. I
didn't
did
actually
because if
look
you
at it.
go
All
to
right,
the
you keep
account,
talking while I try to find this. Okay,
if you go to the
keep talking.
account, the algorithm gets trained to show you more stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I want my algorithm to keep showing me
smart,
Legos and attractive people, not Tommy Fugate.
smart.
But an older Twitter account under the name Trey Fugate featured Legos, which I just
Like
mentioned
you.
totally coincidentally, Star Wars, and global humanitarian efforts. That's right. On this account, he once urged Texas politicians to protect the international affairs budget and help the global poor, save lives, which doesn't sound very Doge. And it makes me think that maybe the counterterror group should have hired big balls.
That is good. That's a good flag, and we should let Christy know about maybe this guy, maybe he is like a deep state in their midst, especially when you consider that there's just this New York Times article which everybody should read from today about just the degree of these USAID cuts, and it's just really horrifying. And to me, like, my takeaway is a guy like this is probably not a deep state agent hiding in the midst. I think that sometimes people think that this is just like, condescending Ivy League, whatever, lib elite types, like trying to make fun of regular folks. And I'm telling you that I'm not doing that when I say this. The Trump administration is recruiting from like the bottom of the recruitment barrel. No, like, there are just so few people that want to go in to work in these jobs that it's extremely easy to like skyrocket up the career chart if you just go fully Trump. It's much easier than going any other way, than going any other direction. Like, if you are a Democrat, if you want to go work and be the like whatever Homeland Security or National Security Policy Advisor for like a middle Democratic senator like John Hickenlooper or something, like, you are competing against other dorks who went to who like graduated in international relations from colleges all across the country. If you want to be the like chief of staff for a mid-level Republican person, like, there's no competition out there. Like, the people there, it's the talent pool is just much shallower.
No,
And
I'm
so I'm seeing
genuinely
this with my
of
own
the
eyes.
belief. I actually think that they pull their candidates from like Xbox Live Modern Warfare 2 chats. Like, whoever's saying the N-word the loudest gets the first job offer.
I mean, like, that is an exaggeration of a point that is directionally accurate. I met a guy. I was going to write a book on young MAGAs, and it just kind of fell apart because I have to talk to you fuckers on YouTube too often to actually write another book, at least for now. But I did a couple of interviews, and I met like this guy who ran a young Republicans club. And he seemed whatever. Like, for MAGAs, he seemed decently smart, but he's like your age, Cameron. He tweeted like 80 times a day about how great Mr. Trump was. And he just got a job as like the chief of staff to a very important regulatory office, like a serious job, like a job that you would want somebody that has expertise in that industry. And this person just was like a Twitter troll. And so this is happening across the government. And I think that it's, anyway, I don't know what to do. I get asked when I speak to college classes, people are like, what advice should you give me on a career? I'm like, really, if you just want to, have no morals and go as fast as you can, you could just be MAGA. You could just say you're MAGA and you would get hired very easily.
Last thing I'll say is that the Lego posts and the Star Wars stuff was 2 years before the MAGA rebrand. His Thomas, the number 4 Texas account announced that legend has it that Thomas Fugate didn't start the fire emoji, but that it has always been burning since the world's been turning. Now, Tim, people of your generation might not know this. That's a reference to the great Billy Joel in a song called "We Did Not Start the Fire."
Yeah, I've heard you've kind of influenced
anyway,
interest in Billy Joel.
I know that. Anyway, I know
should
that
we be scared?
Watch...
Are you scared? Are you scared about having Thomas Fugate there? Or are you laughing? What do you think when you see this picture? What is the emotion that rises?
Hearing things about sleeper cells in the United States, and I'm concerned that some of that might be inflammatory efforts to stoke Islamophobia. And I'm also concerned that there are sleeper cells in the United States because Iran famously is pretty fucked up and funds terror around the world. I don't really know how to feel about it yet, but generally speaking, just with the fear everywhere, I think that maybe someone who is not Thomas Fugate, I think Thomas Fugate should go back to Legos.
I think there's something very concerning about it. I agree. And I would, you know who I should have? Elizabeth Newman was a whistleblower in the first Trump admin, and her job was assessing domestic terror threats. The shortest version of her story is that she ends up getting sidelined because she wanted to talk too much about white nationalist domestic terror threats and didn't want to focus on
That's
just
tough,
the Muslims. Man. Yeah, and I would, maybe I'll do a separate little YouTube with her to talk about like the seriousness of the threats and what it's like to have these guys.
As we know from the Trump administration and the Republican Party as a whole, terror is only terror when it's Muslims. When it's any other race, it's something else.
All right. Well, before we lose you, in the spirit of our monitoring of the manosphere over here, Cameron, I've got some good news. We might be making some progress with I guess this is not a young man, but an old man that is influencing young men. Let's watch Joe Rogan.
ICE raids are fucking nuts, man. Watching this protest on television, it's like...
Do you think the raids are nuts?
All of it's nuts.
I think both sides are a little too hard.
Well... I don't think if the Trump administration, if they're running and they said, we're going to go to Home Depot and we're going to arrest all the people at Home Depot, we're going to go to construction sites and we're going to just like tackle people at constructions. I don't think anybody would have signed up for that. They said, we're going to get rid of the criminals and the gang members first, right? And now we're seeing like Home Depots get raided. Like that's crazy.
What do you make of that, Cameron? Does that give you, do you want to yell at Joe Rogan? Are you encouraged by the growth? Any other thoughts?
It's the same thing with like when Ro Khanna goes on Theo Von and gets Theo Von saying some kind of woke stuff. And it's like, I think that when people with that much influence are saying the right things, we shouldn't just jump on them and be like, well, you made MAGA happen in the first place. We should fucking take what we can get and we should let them cook and let them keep going. And people say we need a Joe Rogan on the left. And I have two responses to that. Number one, Tim Miller and Cameron Kasky. Number two, you can change Joe Rogan's mind on shit really fucking easily. So we just need Joe Rogan to have the right conversations. He's not as much of a fascist as his advocacy might suggest. Like, this is some guy who has sympathy for other human beings. And it's like, if we keep having Joe Rogan and Theo Von and all these guys talk to the right people, Andrew Schultz talking to Pete Buttigieg, shit like that, like, you can start to see some minds get changed. I think we should encourage that.
I agree. And I think that this is ripe for that. I think that my assessment of these guys is they, like the way that I relate to them is like high school Tim. A lot of them have not really like read that deeply. And so like they're in a lot of ways, they're kind of similar to me instinctually from high school. I think back to like my closeted self and there's maybe some Joe Rogan elements in my brain back then. And we, contrarian bro guys are not cool with like the government coming in and snatching people. Like it goes against their whole instinct, right? Like the whole thing was they want to have free speech and don't tread on me and we should just be able to say pussy and you guys can get off my back. And what I don't want is some once you start getting masked thugs like coming around grabbing people who are maybe listeners to their podcasts off the streets, I think that these guys are going to get very queasy about it. And I think that they are very different than like the little mini fascists like Charlie Kirk, who are like super happy to go along with Stephen Miller on all that sort of stuff. And I think sometimes they get lumped together. And I think that it's important to try to attract the ones who are gettable on this stuff. And I think that immigration in a weird way might be a place to do it. And I think there are a lot of like smart people that are like, oh no, focus on Medicaid cuts or whatever. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just think it's visceral. I think that there could be a visceral backlash among some of these guys over this.
I will say in a terribly hopeless time, I have actually been given more hope for humanity than I have gotten in a while by seeing people's response to these terrible ICE attacks. I actually, if you had asked me beforehand, would not have expected people to stand up for folks the way that they have. And this really seems to affect people, and it should. Anyway, Tim sort of compared Joe Rogan to his closeted high school self. So you heard it here first on FY Pod. Joe Rogan is gay. Everybody, I'm Cameron Kasky. It's my pleasure to be joined by Tim Miller, and we'll be seeing you later this week.